Alright, there you go. Now I'm going to make the sound so we know when to match up.
Don't be loud.
It has to be so that way it makes the DBs.
Not too loud.
Ah! There we go. Alright. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Poop. Okay, you can do the intro.
Why do I have to do the intro?
Because you're the host. This is your building.
You're the host.
This is your residence.
Well, that's your microphone.
It is my microphone.
Well, I'm the co-host as well. We're both co-hosts to each other.
Yes, we're same halves of the same...
Well, we should do it at the same time then, on the count of three.
Okay.
We'll both do the intro at the same time with three. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Fuck!
Welcome to Stay Awhile Radio. Okay. On the count of three, we'll do it at the same time.
Okay.
1, 2... Do we go on 3 or do we go at go?
When you reach...
1, 2...
I think we should go backwards. Go 3, 2, 1, and then go.
And go on go, or do we go on 1?
We go on go.
Okay.
So then go was like kind of like 1.
Okay.
So should we do 2, 1, go?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. 2, 1, go.
Welcome
to Morocco Island Radio. Brought to you by
Toasters.
Oatmeal Raisin Bran Muffins.
They're damn good. This episode is brought to you by Oatmeal Raisin Bran Muffins. They're damn good.
This podcast, which is primarily about fishing and other athletics involved in water.
If you downloaded this podcast because you're interested in fishing and other athletic water sports, you've come to the right place.
All right.
No, this is Stay Awhile Radio, hosted by myself, James Steinfeld, and my cohort here. That's the part where you talk, Travis.
What's talking? My name is Rusty Shackelford, King of the Sheep. I also go by Travis Jones, and I'm the co-host of Stay Awhile Radio.
Stay Awhile is a gaming podcast, bi-weekly. First episode is today, the 27th of May. Get you another one every other Sunday.
Hopefully. Well, that'll be when we want them to be up. We're kind of noobs at setting this sort of shit up. Took me forever to...
Travis doesn't know how to use computers.
I do know how to use computers. I don't know how to use whatever Mac calls. I believe we called it shiny white box that emits light brightly or something.
He doesn't know how to use that.
It's another word for monitor. It's what Macs call their monitor because it's not a fucking computer.
So our technical difficulties have been overcome. We have figured it out, so we're now able to record. But this is a gaming podcast, and today is a pretty special episode because it's our first episode.
Indeed.
I think I can be kind of on the same page as Travis, so I can say the game I've been playing most the last week has been Diablo 3.
Well, surprisingly, when I bought Diablo, I have played it more than any other game. But right now, I've actually been going back and playing StarCraft 2 because I'm weird like that. But I would say Diablo 3 is easily... I don't normally buy games full price. I don't normally do that. But when I do, I buy Diablo 3 because this is honestly one of the most returning of the $60 price tag that I bought since StarCraft 2.
Well, it can literally be returning with the real money auction house. I think we're going to talk a little bit about that tonight.
This is absolutely right. They haven't even had that up yet, which is kind of
that's because the game is severely broken in many ways at the moment. I love the game. I do, but It is way too broken for them to release the real money auction house at this point in time.
I feel like there's so much crap that they put in here, and crap really just kind of demeans it, but there's so many things that I think it would be impossible for them to have literally put out this product as perfect as we all thought it could be.
And there's a lot of debate on that right now. A lot of people are saying, hey, it's a huge game and they've been making it for a long time. There's no way they, could have made it flawless. And other people are saying, well, hey, the beta was only the first, hour of the game. If they released the beta for the whole entire game, they would have been able to iron out a lot of these bugs right now.
Well, it doesn't work that way,
And then, it's hard to argue that fact. I think if they would have made a beta of the entire game, a lot of stuff would have been found a lot sooner. These exploits. You've seen the video of my monk.
Yeah, that it goes into a specific spot, it is completely invulnerable from the fire.
There's... What we're talking about is there's a lot of exploits that are out there, or have been out there since the game came out. Wizards had one where they could basically do their magic armor, and they would be completely invincible. They would literally... Vitality was a useless stat for them. They literally... Vitality, they didn't even want it.
Yeah.
You'd have wizards in Inferno mode with 10k HP. And they would just be invulnerable to everything. So my monk build was another one where you could spam your mantra of... I forget which one it is, the one that gives you a shield, mantra of protection or something like that.
Yeah.
And you'd have infinite spirit, you just basically spam that and nothing could kill you at all.
Yeah.
They had fixed that. I have a funny video of me using that spec to kill the Butcher on Inferno mode. Literally, he enrages, and there's still fire coming up, and I'm still killing him. No one can argue that that's clearly a game-breaking spec.
No, well, that's the thing. Like right now, it's like extremely easy. I feel like they have all these options and all these different abilities and stuff, but then you just find one that literally obliterates everything, and you have no reason to use any of your other abilities. And it's kind of... I don't know if it was like they wanted to include this many abilities and they kind of like think that there are uses for them, but in the end, whatever uses you have for them, it's like, well, I'm just going to use this ability that kills everything, as opposed to doing the arbitrary method of using these 3 skills and then the 4th one to kill. It's like, no, I can just spam this. Like, Demon Hunter is the perfect example. I literally... Ebola shot... Basically, you shoot an arrow, it attaches to an enemy, and blows up. And you can attach multiple. So, like, you can have 6 simultaneous explosions, and then you can get a rune that, like, increases the radius, like, triples it. So everything just blows up, and again, attack speed, if you stack attack speed, you literally just shoot a million rockets everywhere, and everything blows up.
I've heard of a lot of Demon Hunters stacking attack speed.
You know?
You bring up a good point, and that kind of comes up with every online RPG I've played is, you know... There's going to be a cookie-cutter spec that's the best spec, and there's no reason to use anything but that spec.
Yeah.
And I think, going into Diablo 3, Blizzard said a lot about, we want all these specs to be viable, we want everybody to experiment and try them all out, but it doesn't really work like that, because there's going to be one spec that's the best all the time.
And I've tried, I've tried all of them.
Going through Normal and Nightmare and even Hell mode, I felt that a lot, where I could, try out all these different specs, and there were a lot of different ways to play my character, and it was really fun. But in Inferno mode, it's just so ridiculous that you have to do the right spec. I'm sure a lot of people at home who have actually played Diablo haven't gotten to Inferno mode yet, but it's just insane. So I go from Hell mode, I one-shot Diablo on Hell.
What are the modes? You start out Normal mode.
Normal.
And you end that level at, like, what? You're, like, 40 by the time you're done with Normal mode?
Like 30.
30?
And then 30 to 50 is going to be about Nightmare mode.
Yeah.
Hell is 50 to 60. So Hell mode, we got to Diablo, we killed him in one attempt, and it felt awesome. It was, and to clarify, Hell mode is actually pretty challenging. The difficulties really up the ante in each difficulty. It goes from, Nightmare's like, oh, it's actually, the game's getting a little challenging, I'm having fun. Hell was, wow, this is really challenging. When I kill a boss, I feel really accomplished.
Yeah.
And then Inferno mode is just insane. Like, Act 1 of Inferno mode, I actually made it through, and I get to Act 2, and literally the first enemies you fight, just normal, ordinary enemies, kill me in 2 hits. So basically, here's the state of the game right now. If you're a melee class, a monk or a barbarian, the game's literally almost unbeatable. There are a few monks or barbarians that have beat the game on Inferno right now, but they're incredibly geared. Yeah. And that's the way I think it's supposed to be, is you're supposed to really hit a wall with gear and really gear up before you progress. But at the same time, if you're a demon hunter or a witch doctor, or, not a witch doctor, they suck right now too, but if you're a demon hunter or a wizard, those guys are beating Inferno mode with really kind of mediocre gear just because they're a ranged class, and there's a really big imbalance right now.
And you can spam Hoverix.
Yes. Speaking of exploits, there's another one out there where there's a specific white item, so the worst items in the game, that literally normally you don't even pick up because they're so worthless. But there's one item that for whatever reason has collision detection, and you lay it on the ground, and the enemies can't walk past it. So there's literally videos on YouTube of guys on Inferno Diablo, they're surrounding him with these chest plates, and he can't move out of them. He's just trapped there, and you just go and hit him for a little bit and go out. It's ridiculous. So those are the reasons why the real money auction house should not be released right now, because you should not be able to beat the hardest enemy in the game by surrounding him in chess pieces that he can't walk through, that the Lord of Hell cannot somehow walk over these chess pieces.
I think you said, like, the auction house, someone, like, took those and, like, raised the prices.
Someone bought all of them and raised them all to, like, $100K. There's a market for this stuff.
Smart man. But I want to say, despite the glitches, as an average player, like, most people who are going to pick up this game and they're going to play it, I think they definitely, first of all, I think most normal players are going to get through normal mode. Like most of the people that I talk to who are casual gamers, that's one of the big things about Diablo 3, is people who I saw who didn't play, like, computer video games. Like, most people who, like they play Madden, and then they do sports and they do other things, they are playing Diablo 3. They're the people who are coming and they are buying this game too. So it's probably one of the most accessible games that I have heard.
Diablo's a really unique series too, because it is one of those games that appeals to the casual gamer, the Madden players out there, the Call of Duty players out there, who normally those are the two games they play, or maybe some Facebook games. But yeah, these are guys coming in buying an old school dungeon crawling RPG. It's not the kind of game you think they'd be into, but it appeals to that kind of casual crowd. I think for a couple of reasons. Blizzard's always done a really good job of making their games accessible for anybody. I mean, this is a game you can play on Intel 3000 HD graphics, which is the graphics built into the i3 processors.
Most people don't know what the hell that crap is. They're just like, I got this $200 computer.
So you can play this game on, the $350 PC you bought at Walmart or Best Buy or whatever. So the fact that it's an actual PC game you can play on such a modest system is part of it.
I've heard, like, people are playing it, like, with just the touchpad. Like I know a bunch of, like, I could never just use that and play a game, but, like, people are, like, literally
especially in a game where all it is clicking.
Right?
Or most of it.
Oh yeah, that just pissed me off. But, like, people are doing that, like, just it's a casual. And I think from that standpoint, people are just going to play it. They aren't really going to encounter these glitches or be that as affected by it, because I think
by the time they get to that point where they're actually on Hell Mode or Inferno, a lot of this stuff will be ironed out. I mean, the game just came out 10 days ago. So what it is right now is there's a very, very small group of Diablo players who is making up a very large majority of the actual, voice that's coming out of this audience. So all you hear people talking about is how broken the game is and how there's all these exploits and glitches. But really, it's a very small amount of people that are on Inferno mode right now.
I'm kind of disappointed that there aren't more classes. Maybe I'm just spoiled. I mean, traditionally, if you look at Diablo, there hasn't been a lot of classes in the beginning. The first one had 3. You had Archer, Warrior, and Sorcerer, and Archer was pretty much useless. I've come from a long line of playing these Diablo games. Diablo was one of the first games I ever got on the PC. I don't know if it was a DOS. I don't think it was a DOS game. I'm pretty sure it was Windows 95, 98. Back when it first came out, but I remember I had the CD for it, like I still have the jewel case or whatever. I played that, and like literally the Sorcerer, I played all through them, and I actually reinstalled it because like you go on Battle.net, you re-download the games.
It's comically simple.
The level cap was 30.
And literally, if you were Warrior, you didn't really use your abilities. You just left-clicked, and that's how you won the game.
That was the whole game.
There's a misconception out there, I think, that Diablo 3 is as simple as Diablo 1 was. And there's a lot of people who I talk to about Diablo, and they're like, oh, you mean left-click 3? And I can see where they're coming from. Because the first game and even the second one are very simple. But the third one, it adds a layer of complexity, but still makes it a very simple game. I think Blizzard's really good at that, making something accessible, but yet that can be complex if you're really into it. WoW's the same way.
Exactly. I think it also has something to do with the art style. If you look at Diablo 1 and 2, the sort of 2.5 like kind of graphics, the isometric view. It made it feel really like gritty and made it dark. Really look dark. So those two games feel way more serious and way more like essentially dark than what we think with what looks like WoW version of Diablo.
There was a huge outcry when the first videos came out for Diablo 3, where people were like, "This isn't the Diablo I loved as a child. This is World of Warcraft." And
it's like a mod for World of Warcraft. Yeah,
I think I can understand where they're coming from, but having played through the whole campaign of Diablo on all 3 difficulties, I think. Obviously, it's not Crysis.
Yeah.
But the environments and the art style, everything's just really artistic, and the environments are really unique, and it is a beautiful world and kind of an immersive world in its own way, even though it's not, a technically impressive achievement.
It's really cool. They're really cool looking. I remember you had said that they were comparable to, like, StarCraft 2. I don't exactly agree with that. I mean, like, I don't know the actual specs, but, I don't know. I guess you were talking about how, left-click 3. I mean, if you play the original game, it literally is left-click 1. Like, that's the thing. But back then, it was more about, like, everything just felt really cool when that game came out. Like, it felt really... Everything was really creepy. Like, this is back in, like, 1996, 95, 97, like, this point. There are very few games that were exactly like that. There were a bunch. Like, there were a bunch of these isometric RPG-based type games. But Diablo was kind of the most accessible of it. It was like the normal person, the normal non-role-playing game person could get into and walk around and be like, oh my god.
It was like kind of a game, too, that it was always... I think everyone kind of got introduced to it the same way. It was back when a lot of us were, kids. And it was, your friend was like, hey, check out this cool game. I don't know, it was something you heard about from a friend of a friend. It wasn't like you saw a commercial on TV for it or something.
It was also my dad. I mean, my dad was my biggest influence on games. My first games I ever played, he had a big case of DOS games and CD games and freeware games where, like, you only played the first 3 levels. They used to do that on CDs. It was really weird. You'd get like $1 CD, I guess. I don't know. It's interesting. It's like they sort of had a real world.
$1 to try out the game?
Yeah, or something.
I mean, like nowadays you pay $60 to beta test the game.
Right.
That was a Diablo 3 joke.
Yes. Got it. Anyway, let's stray from Diablo right now.
Is there anything else?
Not off the top of my head.
I didn't think there were any other video games besides Diablo.
Well, there was another game that we bought recently that we had a really fun time with until Diablo 3 came out.
We played Terra Online it came out like the 5th. Basically played it for like 10 days until Diablo came out.
Yeah, I want to talk about Terra because I feel like I'm a very big MMO guy. I've tried pretty much every single free MMO for some expanse of time. Like, I've tried...
I've gone through Grail Online.
Grail? No, that one's really old.
It's literally like the worst game ever made. I played that for a little bit a long time ago. There's someone that might listen to this and be like, he played it too.
Grail?
But no one is going to listen to this is going to know what I'm talking about.
This goes to all the Grail players, all four of you. Who might
I saw they made an iPad version now. I thought you could actually play it on iPad.
There's definitely enthusiasts.
There's people out there playing it, like at least a couple dozen.
I was gonna mention RuneScape, but I actually got a bunch of updates, and I know a guy at work who actually plays RuneScape. Nate plays RuneScape. But I mean, like,
how does anyone play RuneScape?
The more mainstream sort of free MMOs, like Perfect World and shit like that, I try them. It's actually, I wanted to talk about the auction house too, so we're kind of gonna go. Kind of jumping back and forth between subjects here, but I know from the free MMO model versus like the pay MMO model, I think Terra is a very, very good offer. But the thing is about Terra is you have to be playing with somebody, in my opinion, because if I'm playing alone and I'm playing through this game, it's just not fun. It's just not fun to go through the quests. It's not fun to try and look for a group. It's not fun.
It's almost every MMO though.
Exactly, but you see, in other free MMOs, I don't really have that problem. Especially action MMOs, which are kind of like Terra, where it's less about just hitting the hotkeys and it's more about action. There are quite a few like that. Vindicus Online is one that is just like this. It's very easy to solo up until like the level 30s and stuff like that. There's another one.
So we should describe Terra a little bit too for those who haven't played it, because talking about Diablo from Terra, that's a game everybody's heard of too. Surprisingly, not a lot of people I think are familiar with Terra.
I know.
I don't think its launch was as huge as you might have expected it to be. What's Terra all about?
So Terra Online is it's a new pay MMO. It's $60 to buy monthly. I believe it's $15 subscription. So it's basically like WoW essentially in that sense. The difference is that everything you do, it's an action MMORPG. So instead of just like selecting an enemy and your character auto attacks,
you never target an enemy and see their portrait like in WoW or like in another MMO.
You literally attack and control your character. You do combos. It's basically.
I've heard it called God of War Online or something like that.
But,
if you play a game like God of War, you play an action game. If you swing and you miss the enemy, you miss them.
Yeah.
If you hit them, you hit them. If you move out of the way, you avoid their attack. That's how Terra is too. It's not like WoW where your hits always hit. Yeah. It's not, your misses aren't based on you have like a 30% hit chance. It's just you either miss them or you don't miss them.
Exactly.
So I think that's really cool. It's actually in Terra you can defeat really monsters that should be way higher level than you, or you shouldn't even be in that area if you're good at the game. Like they call their I guess elite enemies in that game BAMs, or big ass monsters.
Yeah.
And they're generally meant to be taken on as with 4-man group. But I actually, one of my first experiences of that game that I really, a moment where I was like, this game's fucking awesome, is when I accidentally found out that the enemy I was attacking for my quest was a BAM. Just like, I need to kill 2 of these guys. So I rush in and I attack this big guy, and I start to realize his hits take like half my health, and his health is not going down at all. I'm like, shit. So I'm like, well, I might as well keep giving it a try. And it was probably like a 15-minute fight, and I ended up taking him down. And I think that's one of the few moments in an MMO where I was only level like 20 or 30 or something, and I thought, that was an epic moment. It felt like downing a raid boss in WoW, but it was my own personal little raid boss. I think that's really interesting. That's a feeling that I've never had in another MMO before.
It's very rewarding when you like complete like a dungeon, an instance, you know what I mean, in this game. Even when you just kill normal enemies, it feels really rewarding. But that wears off quite quickly if you aren't with somebody doing something fun consistently. Like I hit a very strong, a very firm wall of fun at like ending when I hit like level 30 with my I think I was a Slayer, a big sword. I believe that's what a Slayer.
I was Warrior.
Warrior's double swords.
I was Warrior.
You were a Warrior. I was a Slayer. So, we're like you're soloing quests, and eventually it gets to the point where, because it takes so much more experience with every single level, what you end up doing is you hit that point where it's like, okay, I do this combo, and then this combo, and then this combo, kill one enemy. I do this combo, I do this combo, do this combo, kill one enemy.
You get into a rotation, just like with any MMO.
Exactly. And
but the boss fights always shake that up a little.
Exactly, so that's why if you try and do it solo, and you try to just do the quest, you're going to get really bored, because you're like, oh wow, now it feels like I'm doing the same thing as a normal MMO, only I can slightly control more of my characters. But if you're doing this with a friend, and you're going through and you're doing instances, and you're doing fun stuff like that, you're taking on bosses, you're taking on cool, fun challenges, Terra Online is a very rewarding experience. Also, there's a lot of content for once you reach the upper levels. So it's worth, getting a friend, getting a bunch of friends, going through this game, doing the dungeons. It's way more fun to do it that way.
I never got past, level 30-something, because then Diablo came out. But I do want to get back to it once I get kind of sick of Diablo. But yeah, if anyone does go out and try this game, I would suggest, if you're the kind of person that likes a challenge, but likes a fun challenge, play the Warrior class. It's really unique, because the Warrior is a class that can tank enemies, because you have high threat abilities. You can make the enemy focus on you, but you don't have high armor. You don't have a shield to block stuff. You're actually supposed to avoid the attacks, so you have to really be on your toes. It's really challenging. You have to be ready with that dodge button, or the ability that makes you invulnerable for a second.
Yep.
And
the other classes you have, you can be a Warrior, which is essentially an evasion tank. basically, or you can do more DPS if you want. There's runes to customize your
DPS
skills.
if you want to be a little girl, but if you want to play the class as it's meant to be played, you'll play as a fucking evasion tank. And no one will want to group with you either.
If you're just DPS?
No, if you're a warrior tank, because everyone thinks you'll suck, because most of them do.
Yeah, it's
so
true.
That's something to be careful of. But if you're good, people will be surprised. They'll be like, that guy's one good dude.
Yeah.
They'll want to group with you more.
To run through the other classes, you got Slayer, which is essentially the main DPS. It's basically the highest of the normal DPS classes. It's just a guy with a big sword, and you spam really high damaging attacks and try to get high crits. They can dodge as well. The dodges are all on cooldown, so you have to perfectly guess when the monster is going to attack. One thing that's funny about Terra Online is you can jump through the boss monsters to the other side of them. It's a frequent tack that I do. Is you hit them 3 times, you hear them yell, and then you jump through them, your character graphic jumps through them, and you dodge. Of course, more damage is affected to them when you hit them from behind. I'm glad that that's included. It gives you a good incentive for the tank to hold aggro in front of them and everyone go behind. And then, and then you switch
places. Another reason people don't necessarily like the warrior, because the warrior is always moving around as the tank.
It's harder.
So if you're in melee DPS, you always got to be moving too.
Mm-hmm.
So, warrior tanks are really good if you have a ranged group.
Yeah.
But if you have a lot of melee DPS in your group, warrior tanks can be a little annoying, but
Lancer is the main tank. I've played Lancer up to about level 20. Early on, Lancer was pretty boring because your job is basically to soak up damage and hold aggro. So you don't really get a chance to damage that much. I mean that's not really your job, but it's not even fun. That's the thing. Mm-hmm. As playing a Lancer, it's not really fun to do. That's my only gripe about Lancer so far, is I'm not enjoying being a tank. I know.
Have you ever enjoyed being a tank in a game?
I thought I tanked. Maybe I wasn't the tank in WoW.
No, I was the goblin.
You were the tank. Yeah.
And Chuckins was the hunter with his plane strider.
But I have tanked before. I've played other free MMOs. Mm-hmm. I mean, again, I stopped playing a lot of video games.
I've never been one to tank at endgame. WoW is always, or what has been, my main MMO.
Yeah.
I played that since the game came out, all the way to level 85, and I was always raiding. During Burning Crusade, I was actually really into raiding, and we did, we were a progression guild, but...
I got so bad. I'm so bored of that.
The game gets...
the mid-70s, you know? With you and me, we did the triple XP.
WoW's one of those games, though, where so much of the game is endgame, and the leveling up is so insignificant. And then there's other games that are the opposite. I know you didn't play it, but I played Star Wars: The Old Republic when it came out, which is, and I've said this before, Star Wars: The Old Republic is the best single-player MMO I've ever played.
Single-player?
Basically the whole game, you're going to play through, and you're going to have a good time, and you're never going to interact with other players. Occasionally you'll do an instance, but really, because all the servers have so few people, and everything is like a zone. And each zone has different levels, which I know Terra did too, but you really find yourself not seeing or interacting with other players very often. Because there's really no need to.
Yeah.
And the servers were so small.
So you never really had to party unless you were doing an instance?
Right.
Was there any incentive to party?
Not really, no.
No. Do you lose experience? Because I know in Terra you got I don't know if it's half or some shit like that, but I know you definitely got less experience for partying. It made partying just on your own kind of pointless, which is why, again, I was like, if you're going to do this with somebody, go do instances, do some fun shit. Because the leveling up isn't going to be as fun as it could be.
But the interesting thing is in Star Wars is that you didn't feel I never really felt like this is boring, I wish I was with a party. I felt this is the story's cool, my character's awesome. I played as the smuggler, which is literally, if you've seen Star Wars, who hasn't said at some point, I fucking want to be Han Solo. How cool will that be to be Han Solo? He's no one wants to be Luke Skywalker. They want to be Han Solo.
The little whiny bitch who got a lightsaber.
So playing through as the smuggler, he has those one-liners. He always says the clever line, and it's really funny. If you played KOTOR Knights of the Old Republic or the second one, this is basically part 3. I don't even think of it as an MMO.
Is it that same? Because I was a big fan of Knights of the Old Republic, actually, both those games. It doesn't, does the time stop? Because, the combat in those games, it was choose a heavy critical attack, choose, the
shit like that. Like you had 3 options. You could like throw a grenade. You could like do that. Is it like that, or is it more like this is just basically an MMO, but it's Star Wars?
It's like an MMO. Like gameplay wise, it's like WoW a lot.
Like WoW.
A lot like WoW.
Well, what are some other things that set it apart? Like any unique things?
Everything's dialogue. You have options of choosing your dialogue responses, just like in KOTOR.
Did they really affect anything?
They affected like the ways certain quest chains ended. But I never really found anything that affected, like the ending of the game or something significant like that, I guess.
Did you think it was cool or fun that they...
Yeah, I love that. I wish every MMO had that. I love that in video games, where you could even though it's sort of phony in a way. Like, people who have played through Mass Effect know that, where you play through the whole series and you're like, oh, I love this is my Shepard and these are all the decisions I've made. And then they're like, this is the ending that everybody gets. It's exactly the same. It doesn't matter anything you said. But in a way, it's it's the journey that mattered, and I think it was still really fun, even though the ending wasn't as significant.
Yeah, it's like the individual experience is really fun. It sounds like so. I question that because I felt like, oh boy, I can choose my thing, and the enemies are purple instead of green now, or something, or like. Instead of the bomb exploding, it doesn't explode. Like, I don't know, I feel like in an MMO sort of area, it doesn't make a lot of sense to have, like, choose the dialogue.
Right. Well, one thing that was kind of interesting is if you're with a party, you would vote on the dialogue.
Yeah.
And then, like, or it wasn't really a vote, it would be the person who, like, won the role, their dialogue would get chosen.
Oh, okay.
So there's an equally good chance that, your, like my smuggler got to say a response, or maybe your Jedi Knight got to say the response, depending on who won the role.
Did it ever have really big outcomes? Like, was it ever like, okay, you're in like an instance, and you talk to this guy, and if you say the wrong fucking line, thousands of like giant monsters just show up
Not exactly.
in this line?
But there were some things, like it would be like, there's a bunch of troopers in this next room. Do you want to open up the like space shuttle door and kill all of the innocent engineers, or do you want to progress in this area knowing that they'll probably attack you? So the easy option is to throw them all at the shuttle door, or the other option that gives you light side points is to just go through, and then it's equally easy because that takes just a few moments.
So there is light side and dark side points. So those have a big effect.
They basically affect the cosmetic gear you can get later on in the game. One thing that always annoyed me about a lot of these games is you can't really play a neutral option. Like, as a smuggler, Han Solo is a neutral guy. He's the same person that, obviously he's a smuggler and he's, doing illegal stuff, but he'll save the damsel in distress. Sometimes he does the good thing, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So obviously he's not an evil guy, but if you play the game that way, you end the game with like 0 points and you don't get any good cosmetic gear at all.
Which is kind of dumb. I would agree with that. So Star Wars is a very fun single-player MMO.
It's the best single-player MMO I've ever played. I mean, honestly, it's worth $50, to play through it just once.
Yeah.
Just like a single-player game. Probably play it now before all their servers get shut down. No, I don't think that's going to happen, but they've lost a huge subscriber base. A lot of their servers are combining right now. I wouldn't be surprised if it became free to play at some point, where they kind of just have microtransactions.
Like Ion sort of went
like that. Like I think Rift might have. I know, like the DC Universe Online did that. Pretty much every MMO that's not WoW does that at some point in time.
Yeah, like Lord of the Rings was once online. Was
EverQuest even went free to play, although they have kind of a weird thing where all the content costs money.
Yeah, EverQuest 2 is really weird. I downloaded that because I was like, EverQuest 2, oh my god, there's a shitload of races, and I was just settling down. I was like, okay, I'm going to go back to like sort of a normal MMO. And I know EverQuest 2 looks really good. I remember reading once in a Game Informer magazine a long time ago where they were like, EverQuest 2 coming out, check out these pics. And I was like, oh man, this game looks so good. So I'd always had like this want to try EverQuest 2 just from like the looks of it. And then I download it, and it's like, oh, by the way, you got to buy all these expansions if you want to play anything other than a human that sucks dick. The class.
Right. This is the dick-sucking class. It has +5 to dick-sucking. That's its racial attribute.
And, like, you have to go buy all this other shit, and it's like, well, alright, well, fuck this. Now I'm playing this game now. But, yeah.
looks like we're running pretty short on time here. You have any closing remarks here, Travis?
I just want to say, let's talk about. I want to talk about quick, if we can fit a little bit in here, about the auction house. Really quick. First of all, I heard people who are complaining about the pay to win sort of aspect of this, where like basically you just get a bunch of gold, or you in theory get a bunch of money, and then you have the best equipment in the game. And I want to know what you think, really quick, about that.
I mean, Blizzard has clearly designed a game where in order to progress to the end of the game, you have to use the auction house. Because the way gear works in Diablo is every piece of gear is randomized. So when a piece of gear drops, it randomly is given a certain amount of stats. Those stats themselves are given a random amount to those stats. Like, you might get a shield that drops, dexterity. I might also get a shield that drops dexterity, but I might get more dexterity on mine, or something like that.
Yeah.
So because of that, there's literally going to be millions of different items out there, most of which are going to be garbage. And then there's going to be good items, and then there's going to be like perfectly rolled items, which are going to be worth the most. Those are the items that are literally going to go for a couple $100 on the auction house, I think, when it comes out.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if you want to play the game just on your own and just wait for gear to drop and just progress that way, it's not going to be possible past... Not past hell mode, maybe through hell mode.
Yeah.
But beyond that, you're just not going to find the drops you need, because you're going to need the exact right stats, and you're going to need to go to the auction house for that. And I think it's really clever on Blizzard's part, because every time someone sells something on the real money auction house, 15% of that goes to Blizzard.
Yeah.
So they're going to make a huge amount of money when people start using the real money auction house. And by the way, no one's forcing you to use the real money auction house. There's a gold auction house you can use as well. But I think a lot of people are concerned about people coming into this game, putting a couple $100 in, and then they now have the best gear in the game.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to put in there, first of all, if somebody wants to do that and they do that, then... good job to them. Like, who does it hinder if someone else puts in $100 and you didn't, and they get to beat the game? I mean, that's their stupid choice. They don't get to experience the game, I think, the best way that you can, which is building up and finding it. I think the part about the auction house that really annoyed me is because in Diablo 2 and Diablo 1, there was no way to just purchase good equipment. You had to go through and you grinded until you found the equipment you needed. Like, that's just what you did. You have to keep playing. You kept playing, or you just cheated if you played Diablo 2.
Right.
You just cheated. So, and it's interesting how it changes the experience for me, because I never did cheat in Diablo 2. And
never.
It was really
you
hard.
You never cheated in Diablo 2?
No, I never cheated.
You used map hacks, at least.
I never
used
cheated.
Map hacks.
I never cheated in Diablo 2. I downloaded mods to add content. I did that. They never really worked that one. I usually stop because I mean, once you...
Well, here's the thing about Diablo 2. There wasn't anything in the game to trade, but everybody who had the best gear was trading their gear on there were websites that you could go to put your gear up to auction, and that's actually a really good reason for Diablo to have for Blizzard to have their own auction house.
That's true. I guess
in Diablo 3.
I guess from an argumentative standpoint about a sort of a buying to win philosophy, with I believe that like in MMOs, like if you pay money to have the good stuff, like you go online and you I'm gonna get the good sword that you can only get with the online money. I would certainly agree that that's bullshit in that sense. Any MMO that has better equipment for things that you can't get in-game, but only allows it as premium content, I think is bullshit. But most games that do that usually have stupid cosmetic shit that doesn't really matter.
Right, like WoW has, where you can buy special mounts or special pets. It's never like you want to be able to beat this new raid dungeon, you have to buy all this gear for $100.
Exactly.
So I think
which is what people are confusing this with, really, because you can anything that's in the game you can get in the game. You don't need to buy it. You don't need to spend gold. You don't need to spend money.
And to a point, but I think to get through Inferno mode, you really do need to at least use the gold auction house. You're not going to find the drops you need just farming. It's simply not possible. You're going to need to find drops that are good for other classes, sell them on the auction house, and then buy the gear you need.
But in that way, it's versatile, because it lets people who want to play the game more in a casual, old-school style, just going through, finding what you need. Because it makes a different experience for me when I was playing the original Diablos. I legitimately felt like it was way slower, way harder to get equipment that was good. Diablo 3, in an hour, I had enough gold to buy the best weapon like I could possibly find that kills everything in one hit. Like I never had something like that in the other
Diablo
Diablos.
3
and Diablo 2.
Well, if you think you have enough money to buy all your upgrades, just wait until Inferno mode. See, that's one thing that's really annoying about the class imbalances right now, is there's these people that have been using exploits or even not necessarily exploits, but like ranged classes right now can easily progress through Inferno. So you have wizards and demon hunters that are farming Act 4 of Inferno mode right now and selling all their gear drops on the auction house for expensive, for like a couple million gold or whatever. And us monks and barbarians who can't progress through Inferno mode can't afford that shit because we're still farming stuff on Act 1. Yeah. So I think that's where a lot of people are really complaining about the imbalance right now, that it's really unfair that these other classes are able to basically exploit the melee classes, because what can we do? We need that gear.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. No, I just wanted to talk quick about the auction house and about that. Because there are a lot of people, even on Terra's chat. If there's one thing that's entertaining about Terra Online, is the chat that goes on in that game.
I love MMO chat. This is one of the funniest things that for some reason I've seen someone say in general chat in Terra is, so people are always talking about WoW in other MMOs, whether they're trolling or they legitimately just WoW was their first MMO experience. Yeah. So you always see stuff like, WoW was the first MMO to truly do this, or but then you see other people are just trolling and they're like, WoW was the first MMO ever. But for some reason this guy, his message was just this, in all capital letters, no punctuation. He says, WoW was the first and best MMO. Which I was like, that's and there's people arguing with him instantly. They're like, "WoW was not the first MMO. EverQuest was." And then someone else is like, "No, EverQuest wasn't. Ultima Online was." And then some guys, and then someone else is like, "No, the obscure web game that I'm the only one who played was the first MMO." But the funny thing about this guy is he was relentless. Every 30 seconds, he would post the same thing, just for hours, and it just became like a meme between me and Travis. It's just
we just spam. WoW is the first and best MMO.
It really was.
All right, and this was the first and best podcast of the show. So don't bother watching.
Yeah, everything else is downhill from here, folks.
So that's about the end of our show for today.
Right. So you can find us. Our website is stayawhileradio.com. We're also on Facebook if you'd like to like us, or you can twat with us on the tweeters.
As sexual as that may sound, nothing.
Twat on the tweeters. I think that's what they call that website. But yeah, stayawhileradio.com, and like us on Facebook. And every other Sunday, so 2 weeks from now, we're going to have another one coming out. So stay tuned, folks.
We also have additional content that we will be trying to plan as well. So expect all sorts of things coming from the YouTube site and the website in the future.
All right, follow us on YouTube as well.
Exactly.
All right, well, until then...
I'm Travis Jones, co-host, and...
I am James Steinfeld. You folks have a lovely evening.
Thank you for staying a while.
And listening.